Welcome to Comedy 101.
1111. I doing the echo every time, Mr. Bob.
What's your bit? Your bit is to do the echo.
I'll do the echo. Oh. Comedy
Let's
101
call you Daniel Echo
people.
Lucas.
Welcome. Because Comedy 101 will empower your laughter because we believe laughter is the best medicine.
Mm,
I like that.
laughter?
Certainly.
It's the
So,
cheapest medicine, that's for sure.
the cheapest, yes.
I
What
think
is the
in Canada it's
chemical?
covered, right? You get free laughing as part of your health care, right?
Yes, that's why I always laugh every time. Even they say, "Are you crazy? You're always laughing
Always
anytime."
laughing.
Mm,
Daniel, you're always laughing.
always laughing because every time you laugh, there's a chemicals in your brain that what I don't know what chemical is that. Serotonin,
Dopamine?
dopamine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dopamine. Yeah, you release
Mm,
those dopamine
dopamine
releases into
rush.
your system, and you ha,
Mm,
makes you
the
laugh more.
dopamine rush.
Yeah.
But they, but I watch these episode of not Grey's Anatomy, where they
Mhm.
said that if you always laugh, there's something wrong in the brain. It's
You
called
think?
craziness.
I don't think so. I think that that's not true.
Well, one of the clients always laugh. So
Mm.
they went to the clinic and they checked the brain, and
Mm,
there's
uh-oh.
something wrong with the brain. Why you always laugh? There's in
Maybe he
everything.
just thinks everything's funny. That's
Yes, everything is not. Everything is funny for
mm,
you, so there's something wrong
everything's
with that.
funny.
Be
Interesting.
careful. Yes.
Well, I'm gonna get today. We're gonna have a little history lesson
Oh wow. Okay.
in a specific part of comedy history, which is an important one.
Mm-hmm.
It's the history of Borscht Belt comedy. Do you know what that means, Daniel?
Borscht Belt comedy?
Yeah, Borscht
No,
Belt comedy. So there
not
is
even
a
the
particular
spelling.
there was a particular area called the Borscht Belt, which is where a lot of Jewish immigrants lived, and it's Jewish comedy. So the Catskills was an area in upstate New York where people would go on vacations. A lot of them were Jewish businessmen that go on vacation in the Catskills, and so they had a lot of comedians because they would do shows, right? So and it's a really integral part of comedy because without it we probably you wouldn't have Seinfeld, you wouldn't have Mel Brooks, you wouldn't have a lot of comedians were inspired by these Borscht Belt comics that came up. Like Henny Youngman was one, and they're all old comics. This all happened, kind of like at in the early 19th century, in the 1920s and 30s and so forth is when it started. And so I thought it would be something that we could talk about and give people a little bit of a history lesson into why uh, why you like Seinfeld so much, or why you like Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is
Mm-hmm.
Larry David's show. So the first bit here is from the 1910s to 1920s. So Jewish immigrants were restricted. This is racism, right? In its
Yes.
finest back then, from elite hotels. So they created their own hotels in the Catskills. They used to call it the Jewish Alps, right? And so
Yeah.
this was back in the 10s and 20s. And there was a guy named Sam Lapidus. So Sam, he was one of the comics during that time, as well as Lou Holtz, who was a vaudeville comedian who then went to the Catskills because that's where the work was. And so I have, let me see if we can, I want to share this. I think I can share this. Let's see.
Yes. All right.
Let's see if I
I'm
can
gonna
share it.
remove the jaw.
because I
I
was
will
going to have
remember.
us. I thought maybe fun or funny
Yes.
for us to do some of these old routines, and so I've got I've got one here. Can you see that on your screen now, Daniel? Can you read it at all, or do I need to make it bigger?
Yes, I think yes.
Oh, here I can make
Can
it
make it
bigger.
bigger.
I'll make it bigger. Can you read that? Here, we'll make it
Yes.
50%. So if you there's here's I'm just we're just gonna do a snippet of comedy from Catskill days of the 1920s and 1910s and 1920s. So I'll be Sam and you be the manager. Can you see the manager's lines?
Okay.
So I'll go,
Yes.
excuse me, Mr. Manager, I'm looking for a room with a view of the mountains.
Certainly, Sam. Every room here has a view of the mountains, but for $5 extra, you get a room where the mountains don't look back at you.
$5? For $5, the mountains should come into the room and make my bed.
Sam, for $5, the mountains will come in, but they don't do windows.
So you get an idea of the
Awesome.
kind of comedy that they had back then. It was kind of hokey and so forth, but and it plays upon uh, the manager selling the fact that everybody gets to view the mountains and so forth. But it's
Hmm.
really silly, right? So then, as we
Yes.
as we go forward into the Great Depression in the 1930s, people had no money, but they had the mountains. The humor was the
Thanks.
only thing that was for free, right? So
Hmm.
this is when Milton Berle, as you can see, they call him the joke thief because Milton
Okay.
Berle was very popular
Hmm.
back in that time period, and then he became really popular on television with his show. The I think it was called the Texaco Star Theater.
Hmm.
Uncle Milty was stealing from everybody. But here, I'll be the guest and you can be the waiter in this next
Okay.
little bit. So, waiter, this soup is terrible. It tastes like dishwater.
Sir, please, how would you know that what this water tastes like? You have not washed a plate in 20 years.
Hey, don't get smart with me. I want the manager.
The manager is busy, sir. He is in the kitchen trying to convince the kitchen to get into the pot.
The chicken. You said kitchen.
The kitchen.
The
The
chicken to get in
chicken.
the pot.
The chicken to get into the pot. Yes.
And another thing, the steak is so tough I can't even cut it.
Then put in your pocket, sir. It'll make you great heel for your shoe.
So again, these kind of goofy, jokes that people, you know, this was doesn't fly for comedy now, right? But back then,
Yes.
everybody thought it was
So
hilarious, right?
funny. Mm.
So then let's
It
move forward in time to
it
the
modifies.
1940s during the war. Uh, so here's a discussion point we can have. So why was the waiter always the villain? Do you think in the
Mm.
jokes?
Okay.
What do you think? Why would you think the waiter was always the bad guy?
Because uh because I don't know. Tell me, Mr. Bob, why?
Well, because the waiter would be like the establishment. So if you are the customer, then the waiter is playing the role of the establishment. So the establishment would always be against the customer, and so the waiter then always gets to be the villain because he's in the way of getting you what you want, right? And so then that creates
Hmm.
conflict, and so you have to have conflict for any good story. There's always conflict, right? And so the
Hmm.
waiter becomes the point of conflict.
Center
But
of the conflict.
yeah, center of the conflict. Now you notice
Hmm.
this is when Jerry Lewis, during that time period, was when Jerry Lewis came on the scene here, who went on to great success. But in the 40s is when he was starting out, and so this time, why don't you be the director, and
Okay.
I'll do my Jerry Lewis. That's my
Jerry
Jerry Lewis
Lewis, the high
impersonation.
pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's do this. Jerry, you're 15 years old. You can just make faces. You need a routine.
I have a routine. I put on an opera record and I pretend to be a soprano.
And then what?
And then I trip over the rug, spill the seltzer water in the front row, and scream until my mother cries.
Perfect. You are the headliner at the Browns Hotel starting Tuesday.
See, so it's also when a more physical comedy comes in there, where you can see he's basically doing pratfalls and gimmicks and things like that, because that's what the people wanted. They want to forget their worries, right?
Hmm.
And so this kind of stuff was of the day in the 1940s. This was the stuff that people wanted. They wanted to forget about the war. Forget about the
The
war.
war.
They wanted
Yes.
to just you know forget their worries
Relax
and lay back and sit back and have a good time. So then
and
in the
let it
50s,
go.
yeah, the 50s was the golden age of the mega resort. So the Concord and Grossingers are now cities because the resorts grew so big. And this would be the time period, if you remember the movie Dirty Dancing. They were in the
Mm.
Catskill. The movie Dirty Dancing is set in the Catskills at Grossingers, but they didn't call it that.
Hmm.
And because people would go up there for the summer and they'd take dancing lessons and they'd go to shows and they'd have fun and so forth at the resort. And so those resorts just grew and grew. And so now, there's a whole ecosystem that grew around them because they got so big that, you needed other things to be there. Buddy Hackett is a comedian from that era. Buddy Hackett, I remember when if you might remember him as well. He was in The Little Mermaid. He played the seagull. He did a lot of
Mm.
voices when he got older in cartoons. He was in The
Hmm.
Rescuers, um, and so forth. But in the 50s, he was a comic, and he actually was quite a dirty comic, to be honest with you. And so
A
him
dirty
being in
comb.
Disney movies
Hmm.
and so forth later in his life is really quite a switch, because when he was younger, he was really very much a dirty comic, right? So he as he got older, he mellowed, I suppose you might say, and he had an interesting voice, and he talked like I'm a Buddy Hackett. This is my Buddy Hackett impersonation there, Daniel. What are you doing? And so he kind of had a weird voice to him and so forth. But here's a little snippet. Why don't you be the customer this time, and I'll be the waiter, if you can see that.
Okay, let's do this. Excuse me, waiter. I've lived in New York all my life, but I've never seen a Chinese waiter who speaks a perfect Yiddish. How is that possible?
Shh! Don't tell the owner. He thinks I'm learning English.
Until now, that's the joke uh, is still uh, will be good for this generation,
I
right?
don't know if it will be.
I think so.
Oh my goodness. So as we go through time here and we get into the 60s is when women start getting into comedy, in this type of comedy and so forth. And Joan Rivers is you talk
Goodness.
about legendary icon. Joan Rivers is a
Mm-hmm.
legendary icon for being one of the
Comedy.
early women comics that was very successful. And she always talked about her husband, Edgar. And so there was she made constant jokes about Edgar, her husband, and the stuff that he would do and how she would get in trouble with Edgar and so forth. Phyllis Diller was another person at this time period that did the same thing. But she talked about her boyfriend Fang, which
Mm.
was a whole bit for her. So how about you? We're gonna change our. We're gonna play women now, Daniel. So you be the
Mm-hmm.
mother. I'll be Joan.
Okay. Joan, look at you. Oh, supposed to be mother, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to be a mother.
Another mother.
We're acting a little bit here,
Joan,
Daniel.
Joan, look at you. You're 30 years old. You're not married. You're a disgrace.
Mother, I'm not a disgrace. I'm picky. I want a man with a future.
I figure at your age, you should look a man with balls. I found a nice doctor
Doctor.
for a nice
Sorry.
doctor for you.
A doctor? Is he handsome?
He's a proctologist. Proctologist. John, he does not look at faces anyway. Just marry him.
So there's your so he's a proctologist, which is a
Proctologist.
butt doctor. So he doesn't look at
Proctologist.
faces anyway. Just marry him because he's a doctor. So you get this whole, they call it the desperate daughter because the moms are trying to get their daughters to be married off to professional people like lawyers and doctors, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's a funny, juxtaposition of, don't worry about it. He's a proctologist. He doesn't even look at faces. Marry him. He's a doctor. So
He's a doctor, yes. Now, marry now.
right. So as we move past the '60s, and then we get into the Mel Brooks era, and so we can talk about how female comedians changed the target of the joke from the waiter to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then
Mm-hmm.
when it was not the waiter so much anymore, right? So now it's about propelling yourself forward, getting a better life, and making fun of your spouse, or not having a spouse, and how your parents keep pushing you in directions, right? So there's a conflict there. It's a conflict between, young adults and older adults, and your future and what you're going to do and so forth. So it's you know interesting in that
Mm.
sense. So then we get into Mel Brooks, who did a routine called The 2,000-Year-Old Man with Carl Reiner. And um, it is a very funny bit that they did. Apparently, they did for a long time before they ever did it on the stage. So they just used to do it for themselves. Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner used to just do this, like if they were in each other's houses or at parties, they would just get up and do this bit. So here's a little snippet we can do. So uh, I'll be the interviewer, and you can be the 2,000-year-old man. How's that,
Mm-hmm.
Dan? So,
Okay.
sir, you are 2,000 years old. What was the greatest invention in all of human history?
Liquid soap.
Liquid soap? Not the wheel? Not fire?
Have you ever tried to wash your hands with a wheel? It's disaster and fire. You wash your hands with fire once, you don't have hands anymore.
Oh, what was the main diet back then, sir?
Mainly rocks. And for dessert, a small rock, we called it dieting.
Dieting. So there you go. So it's kind of wild,
Dieting.
off the cuff kind of stuff. Um, so eventually, in that area, the Borscht Belt was what they call it, or like up in the Catskills. It eventually they started closing down because people didn't do that anymore. They didn't go on those vacations anymore, and so the Jewish population were allowed to go into the other hotels and everything, and so that whole kind of culture dissipated. But the legacy of that culture is all these people grew up with it in the all the way through the '70s, and brought that with them all the way to now. So whenever you watch Seinfeld, whenever you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm, there's a lot of this kind of humor that's peppered in there because this is the stuff that they grew up with and heard about, right? So yeah, so unfortunately, there's no more Borscht Belt hotels anymore, and there's no more comedians like that are still practicing. But the legacy of all those people still comes forward to this day. So you know,
Thank you
something
for
to
that
think about,
legacy.
right?
Yes. Thank
Something to
you.
think
It modified for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, so I mean, it could be. It doesn't have to be the waiter jokes or the daughter jokes, or or anything like that. It just has to be that kind of that.
Yo mama.
Yeah, it could be Yo Mama, right? Everything morphs, right? We did the Yo Mamas, we did knock knock jokes. So far, we've done that. But it all melds in the culture. As the culture changes, so does the comedy. And so comedy has had to change up through the 80s and 90s and 2000s because we changed. And so it all keeps evolving. But that's one big part of a time period that really shaped a lot of the comedy we still see today because of the nature of how prevalent it was and how impactful it became. And a lot of those people that I mentioned, if you're not um, a student of comedy, then maybe you don't know all of them, but a lot of people do. I mean, they're really big names like Jerry Lewis. He became, before he passed away,
Mm-hmm.
he was known for the telethon because he would give money to muscular dystrophy, and he did a big star-studded telethon every year when I was growing up, and everybody gave money, so he became known for that, his philanthropy, a little bit more than he was known for his comedy. But he started out as a slapstick comedian on the stages of the Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
And Milton Berle, who was Mr. Television back in the 50s, started there as well, and then got a career in television. And he was still performing. He was on Saturday Night Live in the early days and was in music videos in the 80s. People had him in their music videos, so he kept going as well. And then obviously Mel Brooks, who's still alive. And part of the reason I chose this subject tonight was because I watched uh, the 99-Year-Old Man, which is on HBO right now, which is a documentary about Mel Brooks and his comedy and how he affected comedy going into the future with the works that he did. And one of those works was the 2,000-Year-Old Man. We just read a little snippet from there, and with Carl Reiner, and it was such a simple bit, and most of it was improvised. And so they would Carl Reiner would just ask him questions, and he would give these nonsensical answers that were funny, and people loved it. And then it became really popular. There was an album called The 2,000-Year-Old Man back when people still released albums, and it did really, really well. And in fact, you will see even today there's influences about from that one comedy bit, that if you ever see an interviewer talking to a really old man that's saying nonsensical things, that's totally from Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. They're the ones that kind of brought it forward and got everybody talking about it way back when in the late 50s, early 60s. So, yeah. You have
Interesting,
any
Mr.
questions,
Bob.
Daniel? Any questions?
So far, what do you think the modification will be this kind of joke in our future generation?
Oh, into the future? I
Yeah.
don't know. That's the great thing about comedy is it always constantly changes, and you never know. You never know
Mm-hmm.
what's going to be funny uh, to people in the present or in the future because it always changes. There's uh, I think a lot more comedy now is more introspective, and so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people just make fun of themselves because it's safe, right? Because you can get in
We
so
don't
much
like to be
trouble by
slapped,
making fun of other people. And
just like Chris
so
Rock.
right, so you have to make it
Safe.
very introspective, so then that way people aren't angry, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you know you because that's what's happening right now. So and eventually it'll change, it'll be something else. I mean,
True.
I uh my kids say stuff that they think is hilarious, and I don't get it half the time. And so yeah, I'm like, is that really, do you think that's funny? And but they do. And so I'm like, okay, well,
True.
maybe that's the the
That's
way it
that's the
goes
new
now. But
generation.
yeah, everybody has a different, and then culturally, it's all different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you always have to consider culture on these things because the Borscht Belt was mostly Jewish culture, and so there was a lot of Jewish culture um, references in there, all the Yiddish and so forth that was incorporated into that, and we don't have all that, so you know it's constantly evolving. Where
Mm-hmm.
it'll go tomorrow, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. We're hoping for the best.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course.
a- and we're hoping that it will be better than what we are doing right now.
Exactly.
Mhm. That's a
So, did you have
legacy.
fun doing the little snippets? Did you have fun reading the
Oh
joke?
my goodness, let's do that often, Mr. Bob.
Okay.
Reading
I
about
thought I thought of that.
snippets.
I thought this would be fun to do. Let's do some of this. So we'll
Yes,
we'll do some more of that in the future.
definitely. I love that. And thank you so much. Have fun. I'm having fun
Yeah.
reading all those stuff. And who knows, we will make a book regarding what we are talking about, right? Comedy
Okay.
101, Volume 1, jokes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Comedy one. Oh,
I think
one.
it's been a long time we are thinking about that, right?
I
But
knew
we did not
you've been
materialize
thinking
it.
about it a lot. I know. Yes.
Yeah, we do it. We need to do it. But
You
on
you
Food
always want
101,
to do more,
yeah,
Daniel. Always more, more and
always
more and more.
more and more. On Food
Yeah.
101, Mr. Bob, we did create lots of recipes. And
Did
we
you
did not,
really?
yeah, Food
Goodness.
101, Volume 1, let's say Italian food.
Mhm.
Volume 2 until Volume 13. But
Wow.
we did not succeed.
Oh, you ended at volume 13? Okay.
Volume 13, but nobody buy it. So we stop it. We're planning to be
Oh,
25
no.
volumes, but well, I think because
Well, you can take it back.
nowadays,
Maybe you give it a little more time,
oh,
maybe, or maybe 13. So you should just went to 14. You should just skip 13 altogether. Just go from 12 to 14. But no one would know the difference.
not the difference, yeah.
They build buildings and they don't label the floor. They don't label a 13th floor. You ever been
True.
to a building like that where their elevator goes 12, 14,
Thir-
15?
12, yes. I
Yeah.
think we do volume 13. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, maybe you should skip that one.
We need to remove that volume
Yeah.
13.
Just go to 14. It'll be fine. You'll do fine.
That'll be fine. So, Mr. Bob, would you like to plug in something?
I would like to plug in my razor. I need to shave. I'm getting too much stubble going on. See, that's sticking way out. Oh, past my collar. See that? Oh, goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
But you can
interesting.
catch me here on the 101s, movies, trivia, comedy,
Mm,
conspiracy, or you can catch me at
yes.
Static Radio, staticradio.com. Either place, always talk about
Yes.
something. And, but yeah, stick around here and find out more.
Definitely, yes. We're live also on Live 365, another platform of us.
What?
Please do listen to us.
Live
Yes. Live
365?
365.
Does
We
that mean I
are,
have to be on every day?
yes, every day.
Oh, no.
So another platform that you can access us, people. If you don't like that we are live on all social media, if you don't like on the podcast platforms, well, you can listen to us on
Mm.
Live 365 or Radio Talks.
Next thing you're going to tell me we're on Roku or something.
Yes, I'm doing that.
Oh,
I'm
come on.
developing Roku. Why not?
Fire TV. Gosh.
My TV, yes, and hoping it will be materialized.
Mm.
So, Mr. Bob, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel. Everybody take care. Stay safe.
Yes, more to come, people. See you soon.